Right. So today is going to be a technical class. I'm hoping that we have our software ready, whatever software we might need. I have a feeling that we're going to be needing Photoshop, Illustrator, maybe SketchUp today. All right. We're going to divide the class in 2 sessions, right? So we're going to try to spend some time looking on the floor plans. And then we're going to spend some time looking on the sections, right? Before we get going, I do have a presentation I want to share. So let me just bring it up really quickly. There we go. Ta-da. There we go. And I also want to, let's take a look on the site. I did realize that one of the buttons weren't working. Anybody realize that?
Yes, I sent you a message concerning that.
Okay. Thank you for that. There you go again. CSA dash UTech.
Eric?
Yeah.
Sarah, I had to upload mine to the classroom, the email, because my it wasn't working on the portal. I don't know why. Like I couldn't get to submit on the page, on the CSA page.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, no problem. You will have to, we're going to try it again today so that I can have all of them in one place though. You see 121. Oh, sorry. So much passwords in my head, they get confused. All right, yes, so the button is fixed. I realized that, when was it? I think it was day before yesterday, if not last night, perhaps last night, which was this one here that was asking to submit the communication challenge for the sections, all right? So I know some of you had emailed it, so I'm gonna ask that we put it here, because we really need the record, because sometimes, for whatever reason, we can't find the file that we chose, all right? Now, in addition to that, I have here, we're going to be using a tool called Miro, MIRO.com. Let me sign out here, right? So this is what it will look like when you go to it. If you don't already have an account, what we're going to do is we are going to develop our workflow using the program. Even if you don't necessarily want to use the Miro, you can use others as long as you can share it with me and we have a way that we can communicate. It's fine. All right. So you can just sign up with Google. It's one of those easy things to sign up. And the free account, you get 3 whiteboards that you can use and share by default. All right. Okay, so what I have here is sign in. Oh. Where did I? Okay, here we go. Right, student work. Okay, so over the last couple of days, I have basically collated all of you guys' images. You can see my screen okay, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. And I basically went through and marked them. Some of them, you know, questionable. Some of them, I don't see the communication image. Some of them I only see the visual image and so forth, right? And
So, excuse me, sir. In some cases, in the comment section when I was submitting, I said it, that the picture, the original picture that I wanted to mimic already had like this style objective in it. So that's why I didn't submit a next
yeah,
picture.
man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's understandable. And I see that. So where I have a question mark is not because I didn't get two images, but just because I didn't see communication. All right.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
now everybody pretty much has their own images, right? And what I'm going to do is we're going to go through some basic techniques when we're doing digital editing. And we're going to try to see how we can best align them to the techniques that we need to do some of these. So I even put some cards beside them with some things that we need to know how to do. Soft shadows, textures, sketchy lines, glows. Let me just skip over. That one is pretty similar. Let me find a different one. Like maybe something that's a little different. Yeah, like this vector diagramming. We can look at how we accomplish that. Some of them have hard shadows and it's more about vector line work. And let's see. Right, so hard shadows. So what you find out is that overall, pretty much most of the techniques, even though there are so much images, they can be narrowed down to knowing how to achieve these here, right? Can you guys see these? They're probably a little pale. So anywhere from vector line work, achieving 2-point perspectives, you know, soft shadowing, watercolor effect, hard shadows, sketchy lines. So these are all, I would like to think them as visual categories that we need to get to create these plans. And the interesting thing is, if you look at the sheer amount of plans that we have here, you might say, but that's only like 9 categories. So it's like saying we just had to know 9 things in order to build all of these. I mean, the truth of the matter is, for example, let's look at, pick one of these, like this plan here. This plan requires soft shadowing, and we can kind of see that in some of these areas. But if we look at a similar plan, maybe like, maybe this one. No, that's hard shadowing, like this one. This one also requires soft shadowing. But yet it looks, it looks different. So it requires different types of soft shadowing, different types of 3-dimensional furniture in top view, different types of texturing. Right? You guys understanding me? But it's still considered texturing, and it's still considered soft shadows or hard shadows or vector. So this is what I want to kind of point out to you guys, that whenever you want to achieve a particular look, the first thing is to understand like the categories that digital illustrations are divided into, right? So what I have here is just a quick, there you go. Oh, it's in the same window.
So we're supposed to get access to that mirror board.
Yep. So I want you to have your account so that I can, I basically want you guys to create your own. But after we look on this, this quick tutorial here, which is, it was actually here, right? And it's about how do we choose the right tools. Carry this to full screen. All right, let me just present and done. Right. So yeah, some of us know these icons, we know these tools, But I want to highlight something that's kind of interesting with computers. Pretty much everything that you can do with the computer will more than like, as it relates to digital illustration, will more than likely fall into these categories, right? And as a matter of fact, because some of these we want to actually fill out. So this is not necessarily a presentation, but more of like a kind of hybrid whiteboarding session here, right? So I want to get some suggestions from you guys as well. So if things like image editing, texturing, and these things here fall under raster editing, can you guys, let me stick this here. Okay, good. All right, good, lovely. Can I get a bold? Beautiful. Right. Do you guys know what this term means? Raster editing?
Raster means pixel.
All right, good. Yeah, man. So raster means pixel. And that is kind of like the computer term. But we needed to do something on the computer. We might say, oh, we need to edit an image, or we need to create some texturing. Things like, give me another example here. Creating, watercolor effects, right? Things like glows, glowing, like when something is glowing, and blurs, like when something is blurry. All of these effects are raster editing. And the reason I bring this up is if you know what the effect is, it becomes easier for you to determine what software you think should be best. Now, the truth of the matter is, guess what? I don't know every software that exists. Most persons don't. To make matters even more technical, even a software that I might use for 10 years, I may not know all the features that that software has, right? I don't know how much of you experience this where you've been using something for years and then somebody comes to you and say, hey, but why you never use this feature? And like, what? I didn't know that this program had this feature. Anybody experience that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And, I experience that every day and I'm here teaching. So at no point one should say that, oh, well, Mr. Williams know everything about every program. So, let me just throw questions at him. And the truth of the matter is no. But what I want to teach you through this exercise is, kind of learning how to learn. And if you know these categories and you know this, you at least know the minimum that, for example, After Effects is a motion graphic tool. Photoshop is an image editing tool. Then you automatically can go from there to find the solution that you want. But if you don't even know what the program is used for, then you won't know which rabbit hole to go down. So what we want to do is to just kind of understand these technical terms and how they relate to tasks that we would normally do on the computer. So for example, vector editing. I hope you remember what that is, right? From DDM days. Everybody remember what that is? Hello?
Illustrator.
Not the program, but what is it?
Not pixel.
But it could be video, or it could be documents. So what is vector editing? Anybody want to give it a swing?
So that's like when you enlarge
Line
and
editing.
increase
Okay, hold on. Who was that? Sukal went first. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so that's like when you enlarge and when you decrease, it doesn't affect the pixels. So it's supposed to be like clear. Yeah,
Yep,
good resolution.
you have told me one of the perhaps features of vector. Not quite what it is, but you're
Vector is
getting
line
warmer.
editing,
Done?
editing lines.
Line editing. I like that one. That one is getting warmer. That one is getting warmer. So let's run with that. So so basically vector editing is utilizing, well, vectors, and vectors are lines, right? I mean, the answer was directly in the word, right? So anything that requires lines. Now, lines are very different from, let me put it this way. Vector is very different from raster. A vector is stored in the computer via use of algorithms, whereas raster is just storing raw pixel information. So give me some examples of vector editing.
Sorry, you say that again?
Say again?
Could you say that again, please?
So right, I'm saying when you're doing vector editing, vector stores its information as algorithms, right? Whereas a raster stores its information as raw pixels. So just to kind of give an example of that, the reason why, for example, Diane says that, okay, you know, with a vector artwork, it will never be blurry, is because the vector artwork is not storing the fact that this image has 10 pixels, or it's 1024 height by 768 width and so forth, but rather it is storing algorithms that will always regenerate the sharpest possible image at any given time. You know, it's kind of crazy, but let's go and explore it as we go along, because we really only have half the class to talk about it. We don't really need to know the technicalities as such, but we just need to know the features and, of course, what program to use.
Excuse me, sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So when we're in Photoshop, sometimes some of the images aren't clear until you rasterize it.
Well, not necessarily. Well, okay. Rasterizing in Photoshop is going to tackle something that we're going to talk about a little further. But it's when you're using Photoshop, automatically all the content that you are manipulating is based on raster slash, or we could call it pixels. So the feature in Photoshop that says rasterize, it's not necessarily turning, you know, stuff into pixels, because it's already pixels, but it's doing something else. But I don't want to lead us down that rabbit hole yet. We're doing one rabbit hole at a time, so we don't get confused. All right.
All right, sir.
All right. So vector editing task that we will do, and I'm going to put the first one in, is architectural drawings. Of course, that's going to be the first one on the list, because that's literally what we do here. So when we're using programs like AutoCAD and Vectorworks, I mean, the program actually named Vector, right? But anyway, and we're using like Revit and all these programs, we are really doing vector editing, right? So I've taken away the easiest answer, right? Can anybody else tell me what other type of task that you would do that requires vector editing? Anybody?
Logo,
No? So the only
Making
thing we
shapes.
do in vector is architectural
logo
drawing?
designing.
You make shapes,
Logo
sir.
design.
Diagrams.
Yeah, like when you're making posters, I don't know. Some graphic.
I heard diagrams. I heard somebody said logo design. I'm going to put that as well. Yeah. Somebody said, like when you're doing posters.
graphic posters, I don't know.
Well, poster is a broad term.
Okay.
I'm going to use a broad term that would be more legal. And the word is when you're doing illustrations. And illustrations is a broad word because you could say, well, I'm using a paintbrush and I'm doing an illustration here. Or you could say, you know, I'm using something in a 3D program and I'm illustrating what I'm doing. But the reason why I use the word illustration is because in the artwork genre, right? In this digital design area of study that we're in, whenever we say illustrations, we are usually referring to vector editing, right? When we talk about digital art. So that's something interesting to note, because if you were doing something in Photoshop, it wouldn't really be correct to say I'm doing an illustration in Photoshop. Although it's not like illegal to say that, because, you know, technically the term illustration is very broad. But for example, when you go to maybe like a stock photo website and you want to find something that is vector versus something that is raster, what words do you use? I mean, you can use the term vector, but if you use the term illustration, you will more likely yield results that look like vector editing. All right, so we're coming down the line now. So these,
is Procreate vector editing or raster editing?
you know, that's a good question. And guess what? Some programs don't really tell you as such. I can't even necessarily guarantee that Procreate is vector or raster. When you're considering vector, there are two things to consider. The program might allow you to manipulate itself in a vector atmosphere, meaning you're using lines and that kind of stuff, but it might not be able to output to a vector format. So that is also important. You got me? So Procreate, I'm not sure if it is vector, but even if it is, you need to consider those two factors. Am I editing in a vector manner? And then how do I get stuff out of Procreate? Do I get it in a vector file format? The next one is image edit, is video editing. This one is pretty straightforward. And most of us know what video editing is, right? I'm going to call it video / motion graphic editing. Right, that's probably a better name. Now, so this is something else that a computer can do. And what do we normally do that, what kind of task that we do that requires this? Well, we might be editing a video, and we're not going to jump into this because, you know, that's not our focus in AC1. Because all of what we're doing now really falls under the much broader category of static graphics, meaning graphics that is not moving, right? Of course, video and motion graphic falls under dynamic graphics, so it's graphic that's actually moving. But this is just so that we understand that these items that we list out here pretty much is like I'm saying, this is all that a computer can do graphically. And it don't look like much items, but most of the pictures that you will ever see comes from a combination of one or two of these modes. All right. So with motion graphic editing or video editing, we're really dealing with where's my caps lock? We're really dealing with video manipulation and animation.
Yes, sir.
Right?
So programs like Adobe Premiere Pro, Sony Vegas, DaVinci, programs like those you'd use for video and motion graphic editing.
That is correct. That is correct. Now going down the list, audio editing. That's pretty straightforward, right? Anybody here use Virtual DJ?
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right,
sir,
we have
yes.
some DJs in the house.
Real life.
Hey, well, basically, it's sound editing, right? Whether it's you're creating music or manipulating it or whatever it is, that's pretty straightforward, right? Of course, that's not a part of our module, but we do need to know about it, right? Sound/music editing and creation, right? Then next we have 3D modeling. And this is done in a total different direction now, right? And we know that 3D modeling is used to do, for example, renderings. And well, modeling also, it's used to do other things like, I don't know, well, you could say architectural renderings to show spaces in 3D.
So when you have a 3D modeling BIM software, it can help do much more, tell you the materials used, produce those schedules, those things.
Exactamundo. You got it. Then there comes 3D animation, which notice that I didn't put that under motion or video editing because this is a different type of moving objects. So it's basically the 3D objects is moving, which is very different than pixels moving. Because for video editing and motion graphics, right? For video editing and motion graphics, we're really talking about the pixels moving.
Yes, you have I only know of a few. You have, I know that 3ds Max is one, you have Maya and then Blender. Those are
Right,
those
there
would be
you go.
software you use, right? So, okay.
Right, right. But before we get to software, we're really just trying to figure out what we use it to do. So we could say character animation, right? Then we could also say, what else do we use? What else do we do with it? We can also do rigging.
People use it for the architectural walkthrough thingy.
Through walkthroughs.
Yeah, walkthrough.
And there was another, and simulations. Right? And
What's the question? What do you use 3D animation for?
these things are tasks that would require the feature 3D animation.
Advertisements.
Okay, advertisements, but that's a bit broad because that could involve everything here. You understand? So we're kind of narrowing it down. Now, this is another big one. Document editing that we don't even necessarily think about, but it is actually something, it is actually a category of something that you do on the computer. When we're talking about document editing, we're talking about typography. And we could also be, you know, we're talking about being able to manipulate type and font and text, right? And then a category that I'm not necessarily even familiar with, but then there's a whole world that has to do with programming and coding, right? So these, right, that has to do with programming and coding. So when you really kind of zoom out and look at it all, pretty much everything that you can do on the computer, chances are falls into one or two of these categories. And there aren't much categories. I mean, think about the last thing that you did on a computer in terms of generating content, creating some kind of content. You did it via one of these modes. So that's the first thing that I want us to identify, you know, the main, I would say, like modes by which the computer can create content. Now, after we identify this now, then we can start to think about software, because the software would fall, the software does one or two or three of these things. And this is how we can start to categorize, should I use Photoshop to do this thing, or should I use Word to do this thing, and so forth. All right. So the next thing we want to look on now, trying to move with the time, I want to leave some time to actually start producing the work, right? So these are some popular software that we perhaps use in architecture, right? And each of these software might do one or two or many of the things that we saw here. Let me just put this over here. Oh, I had this here. There we go. Right. Right. So you might find maybe one program being able to do multiple things. Or you might find where one program is only good for one thing. You know, it totally varies. So what I want to do is to kind of go through the main programs that we're going to use, because there are so many programs that exist in the world. We just want to kind of narrow it down to the ones that we normally use. And then we want to narrow it down with some examples as well. So perhaps one of the probably most overused program, I want to start with that because I want to get that out of the way, because Photoshop is so overused. But what you will find out, a lot of times you find this out years after maybe you graduate and you're like in the field generating content, you start to realize that, oh crap, Photoshop is really the least program that I really need. You know, but you know, it's really popular. We kind of start off with it, but this is really primarily for manipulating raster, for doing raster editing. Now, guess what? Photoshop can even do a little bit of vector editing. Some of us might have discovered that.
Yes, sir. I was just about to say, I'm pretty fine doing the same things in InDesign as in Photoshop. Yes,
True, true. You could use Microsoft Publisher to build a flyer or a document or a multi-page document.
So that's real throwback, you know how long we hear about Publisher?
Well, it's still around. And there are some people that use it. So it's not to say that a program is only good for a particular thing. nor should we try to be ambassadors of a program. You know, Photoshop is the best, Lumion is the best, and you can't tell me nothing else. You understand? But I want to kind of just redirect our perspective to be objective focus, right? Because what you might find in this activity that we're doing is you need to achieve something, and a particular program might be good at one thing, and that's all you need it for, so that you can take it and put the stuff in another program so you can use it to do something else. Not trying to squeeze and twist and force the usage of one program to do many things, right? So I want you guys to kind of think of yourself as, you know, it's not that it's not necessarily about if I can edit this line work in Photoshop, but more about I need to achieve this particular line work. You know, what is the best program to do this line manipulation? In some cases, you might find that Photoshop does it, but what you have to do is you have to first take into account the primary purpose of the software, because every software can do more than one thing. If I really wanted to try hard, I could type a document in 3D Max. And you might laugh and say, that's impossible. Then I can show you. And then you might say, but that's just not. But I will tell you something though. I have gotten a floor plan in Excel before.
Excel, you say, you know, sir.
Yes, I said Excel. That was not an error. I did get a floor plan in Excel. Right? And that floor plan was given to me. That floor plan was given to me to produce a 3D from. You know? So, and my drawer was on the floor. I was like, is this in Excel? But anyway, so I'm just trying to give that example to say.
Was it good, sir?
Was it
The
good?
quality?
No, it was absolutely horrible.
Exactly.
Can I even find it? But I mean, I could see what the person was saying. I mean, they went into each cell and highlight the line. And, I mean, it was just insane. It was just insane. But I'm basically what I'm saying, guys, is that this is the opportunity for you to explore other programs to achieve particular purposes, right? I will give you an example. If in something like oh, I do have my example folder here, right? So we're going to look on some examples here. Where are you? Where are you? You are here. And examples. There we go. Okay, yeah, here we go. Choosing the right. So for example, I mean, if you needed to do something like a 3D montage where you needed to show how something looks, then, I mean, you can also do this in Illustrator, you know. You can. But because you're doing so much manipulation of pixels, so remember what we spoke about, some features of raster, things like fading, effects, glows, that kind of things. Hands down, raster editing will do that the best. But what you might find is that in some cases, let's go back here. Let's say you wanted to generate an elevation. Where did it go? Okay, here we go. Right. You wanted to generate an elevation for print. I mean, this is in Photoshop and it's fine. I mean, you can now color all of these things and shade them and everything. But then you could very much do the same thing using a vector approach as well. Kind of minimize this, right? Let me kind of zoom in here and zoom in here. Those look pretty similar, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
So it isn't to say that this image on the left, which is something that is going to be manipulated in Photoshop, could not achieve the same thing that's going to be manipulated in Illustrator. And this is where the areas get kind of gray, because the things that you want to accomplish is not a straightforward thing. Meaning, if you're doing architectural plans, visually, it's very straightforward what you need to do. You know, you have line weights, you need to draw, you need to have annotations and that kind of thing. But when you start to mix art and concepts and expression and all of those things in it, no, you have to now draw on other features to achieve whatever you want to express. So in this case, this might be fine, but then the next layer on top of this is, you know, what do you expect to do with it afterwards? If you were thinking about making the windows glow and have like sun, like a glowy effect on the window and the glass, then you would have to start going into the raster editing environment. But then on the flip side, if you wanted to start to know diagram, like, okay, when wind flows through this section, you want to show a line that has wind flow and all of that, then you know you're going more to the vector side of things. I mean, you could get glows in Illustrator and you could draw lines in Photoshop. So it's not that I'm saying that you can't do it in both, but it's just that you have to now start programming your mind that I know this program is best at this, so I'm going to start there. Now, when I say the word start, it now means research, because remember what I said earlier, everybody don't know everything about a program. But a lot of times we start research from, let's say you want to merge two images together. So you might Google merging two images together. And then of course, Google is just going to throw results at you, millions and thousands of results. Maybe in those results, you even get recommendations to use, you know, Excel to do it too. Who knows? Now, the reason why this is important is that when you know what the program does, it now narrows down your research to merging images together using Photoshop. Because you could very well Google merging images together using Illustrator and still get the results, or merging images together using InDesign and you still get the results. There is a way to do it, just like how there is a way to draw line work in Photoshop. So I'm going to show you some considerations when it comes to that now with workflow, because these things that you guys want to achieve, guess what? I don't know how to do them. Where is it? These things here. Here they are. Maximize this thing. Kind of zoom on. Right. These images that you guys select to do. It's not as if just yesterday I produced a plan like this, or just yesterday I produced a plan like this. But I am going to first try and break it down into these things that we discussed. You know, do I need to approach it with a vector, raster, video, 3D modeling? Where do I need to start to approach these things from? And then I do my investigation starting at that point. So let's look at what we mean by that. We're going to continue down. Let me just do the present. Present. There we go. Right. So So we kind of deal with the trifecta, as I call it, you know, raster, vector, and document, right? So for example, for InDesign, if I needed to do a 50-page document, I could do it in Word. I could do it in InDesign. And for the most daring of us, I could do it in Photoshop, right? As a matter of fact, I could also do it in Illustrator. You understand? But what I expect you guys to know is, where do you start, right? Where do you start to investigate? Would I start to investigate doing this multi-page brochure from Word? Surely if I start from Word and research, how do I do brochure in Word? I'm going to get results like crazy. But that is the wrong starting place, because you might know that there's another program that is closer to what you want. So it would have been better you started to search from that end. So that is what I'm trying to get across. Now, things get a little bit interesting now when we start to go to the world of 3D, because, I mean, some persons would say, I don't like to use SketchUp because it don't look real. Right? Lumion is better because it look real, and SketchUp don't look real. And I can see why persons would say that. But now that we have an objective in mind, so for example, what do I mean by that? Let me grab, for example, another one of you guys' work. So let's say, let's grab one of these 3D, like maybe this one. So I want to do this section. Well, really, it doesn't really matter if Lumion renderings look more real than SketchUp. It's really about which one of those programs would be best to achieve this. You get what I'm saying? Now, after we probably look at one and we say, boy, I don't know. I mean, this has some interesting line work representation, but then it also has graphics that has depth and shadow in the background. So you might say, okay, maybe Lumion could achieve this here. Then you might say, well, I don't know how to use Lumion. So that is where the research part comes. And that sometimes is a kind of a red line for us, because we don't necessarily want to go down this rabbit hole of learning a program that we never used before. And then we have this deadline that is upon us. Now there's a way to tackle that as well, and that is using workflow. So we're going to look on that coming up shortly. But the first thing is to look on your diagram and determine which one of those use case is required to achieve your diagram. So in that case, when do I use SketchUp? Well, for me, SketchUp gives a wide range of visual styles when it comes to 3D line work. Anybody have explored that in the past?
Oh, what's that, sir?
It gives a wide range of options when it comes to line work in 3D.
So you mean like how you can make the lines overlap and extend out in the drawings?
And look sketchy, or look like marker, or look like crayon and all that kind of stuff. Right. Now, a program like Lumion may not have that feature. You understand? A program like, okay, here's a good example. For those of us who use Revit, we could say, oh, but Revit has a feature where it can make your line work look like lines. So here we come again.
Sir, so basically,
have that feature to make it look sketchy as well, sir.
All right, and even probably Lumion, right? Forgive me because I'm not that familiar with the latest features. But I
Yeah.
want to give you an example. So just like how we have that example where Photoshop and Illustrator has a similar feature. So Illustrator does lines, but Photoshop can do lines. Well, Revit can do, let's call them artsy line work, wobbly lines, sketchy lines, lines that look like marker, that look like a pen, that kind of stuff. So Revit has a feature that can do that. But then when you look at what's available in SketchUp, there are like so many categories and flexibility and ways for you to manipulate the line work. So obviously SketchUp has more options when it comes to line work options.
Sir,
Yeah.
yeah, similar to SketchUp, ArchiCAD has a ton of line work features.
And for ArchiCAD too. Now, guess what? Thank you for bringing that up because I'm not that familiar with ArchiCAD. So some of us might not be familiar with all the different programs, but the main objective is that we know that we want to get sketchy lines. So it's almost like you just need to decide what program would give you that. No. And that's where the investigation and knowing about the programs come in. So you could maybe get that in ArchiCAD just fine. And maybe you could get that in SketchUp. So anyway you take it, there's a type of research that has to be done. But this is a part of the process. That's why I'm telling you guys, a lot of times when you do this kind of, let's call it mimic kind of work where you're trying to represent something in graphics, it's usually not so straightforward as to say, oh, well, I know to use this program, so I'm going to use this program to achieve everything. More than likely, you're going to have to be hopscotching in different programs. All right, so we're hopefully going to learn some new programs. So for example, 3D Max. Traditionally, most people run away from Max because they're saying, no, man, the Max too complicated. Right? It's like the opposite of SketchUp. You're on opposite ends of the spectrum. But then one of the primary purposes of Max is that it is the bridge between multiple software. If you needed to get this model from Revit and get it into ArchiCAD, ArchiCAD may not necessarily take the Revit model so nicely. So let's say you have a Revit, you export it to FBX, and then you open your ArchiCAD and import it. And when you import it, you say, oh crap, all the windows are gone and these things happen. I don't know if this happened to you guys when you try to export and import.
You have to know, yeah, but it can work seamlessly. Right.
Now, a lot of times to solve that is knowing what you call what is the term again? DDC software. And what happens is that software like Maya, what's that other one again? Blender, and of
Yes,
course
sir.
3D Max. Yeah, question?
No, I was just about to remember, but you already said it. So.
Oh, right. Now, you might say, okay, so why do I, no, it's not DDC, it's DCC, right? But anyway, the point is that these type of programs allow you to manipulate down to the polygon level, right? Most programs that we use architecturally doesn't give us that option. You have wall tool, window tool, you can extrude and that kind of stuff. But it sometimes they don't really give you the full-fledged freedom of going down to the vertex and polygon level. So what is normally recommended professionally is that if you are moving from one program to another, unless the program explicitly have a link, So for example, Lumion has an explicit link with SketchUp. Am I right? And
Yeah, Revit
and Revit, right?
And ArchiCAD and some other stuff.
Exactly.
3D Max as well. Yeah.
None. Well, unless that's new, but
no.
okay. So they have an explicit link with each other, which helps to get rid of most of those issues. Now, you might not be traveling along that nicely, explicitly laid out highway. You might be trying to get an effect, and you need to go from SketchUp to ArchiCAD. You know, so maybe SketchUp.
Come on, sir. What are you talking about? That's the most seamless thing you can possibly want.
Okay, all right. So bad example. I'm just drawing for examples here, right? So don't take it literal. But I'm saying that you might be trying to go from two different software that is a bit unconventional. All right, how about if I use Vectorworks from SketchUp then maybe? I'm just calling names arbitrarily. What happens is that programs like 3D Max, Blender, Maya, those types of programs read the widest arrayment of software because they span multiple sectors. So for example, Revit is used in architecture. It's a specific 3D software, but 3D Max is not an architecture software. It's not only a game creation software. It's not only simulation and character animation. You get the idea. And the same for Blender, and the same for Maya. There's probably even more, but maybe I'm not familiar with those, right? So what I'm trying to say is that because those type of software spans across a wide arrayment of genres, you can move from one software through that software to another, right? Actually, I have an example of this even in this project here that we're going to show you. I'm going to show you in just a bit. So knowing one of these software, you don't have to know how to, to do stuff directly, but at minimum, knowing how to import and export, because that could save you. You understand? So that is for the 3D Max. Now, for Revit, obviously, for architectural drawings and even for working drawings, all of that is fine. But remember, we are in the zone where we're not dealing with conventional, right? Some of us select some drawings that obviously you can't just get everything done in Revit or ArchiCAD or whatever. You're going to have to maybe jump over to Photoshop and so forth, right? So, so in some cases, maybe you need to cut a section, but because of how Revit has a section box, for example, whereas maybe, I don't want to step on any toes now because I don't really know if other programs have a section box, but I'm just giving you an example that the program might have a feature. And once you can get your stuff into it, then you'll be able to cut it to then move it to somewhere else. All right. So Revit is especially great when it comes to exporting line work, right? And we're going to explore some of that as we go along. AutoCAD is still great for 2D illustrations, for example. So accuracy is one feature of ArchiCAD. Sorry, of AutoCAD. I remember in the past working on projects with a graphic designer, and in the graphic design world, their AutoCAD is Illustrator because Illustrator is line work, but they are not going to be exposed to AutoCAD because they're not in the architecture field. So in their mind, when they want to measure something, it's really problematic because Illustrator is not made with the level of the granular level of accuracy as AutoCAD. You have dimension lines, everything is very specific. You have snaps, you have all of these tools that is geared to that. So for example, when I introduce this graphic designer and I say, yeah, but why you don't draw that in AutoCAD? And they're like, AutoCAD, what's that? Isn't that some complicated software that architecture people used to draw a house or whatever? And I'm saying, yeah, but it's a vector program and it will help you to get your line work done accurately. You know, so they've had to investigate, and in AutoCAD, they were able to like draw this very specific thing. I think they were trying to put like an artwork around that door, but it's like so hard to like measure that door and draw it up in Illustrator. I mean, it's just like, it's just not made to do that kind of work. But in AutoCAD, they could easily do and measure it door and everything fine. And then they exported the work from AutoCAD into Illustrator to get all of the artistic features that AutoCAD obviously don't have. So for example, you wouldn't expect AutoCAD to have like fades and blurs and, you know, give me a feature that for and filter effects and these things. No, but it does have the accuracy in it. So for architecture, well, maybe before Revit, we would draw our plans in ArchiCAD and then, sorry, in AutoCAD, and then maybe carry them to Illustrator or Photoshop to color them up. And then we would know we'd be accurate from AutoCAD. Right? And then we have Premiere Pro and these things. Now I won't go into Premiere Pro because we're kind of running short on time. But I just want us to now look at the combination of them, because this is where the activity part come in. Oh, I can't zoom this. Can I zoom this? No? Oh man. Okay. I thought I could zoom this picture. Oh, I can just grab it and I will just throw it in my artboard here. There we go. Just put them up here. Okay, so for example, in this flow chart, now this is a flow chart that they made some years ago when we, this is in my office when we were trying to determine how do we create certain types of outputs. So it looks kind of confusing. And what I'm about to show you is maybe the more proper way of doing this. But anyway, so if we wanted to make brochures, well, we would use InDesign. And the things that we could put from InDesign, well, let me start from here. Depending on what the client asks for, we might choose to use AutoCAD or 3D Max. So this pretty much was our starting point in the office for, and all of these green bars that you're seeing, these are actual products. So for example, if we go into AutoCAD, let's scroll down here. We then went to Illustrator. And from Illustrator, well, we could go into Photoshop and then into InDesign to get flyers, banners, presentation boards, and so forth. Right? Also stemming from AutoCAD, we might go to PowerPoint to do a slideshow presentation. So, and then we're going to the into animation as well. So from 3D Max, we would render out a raw output that could be image or video. Then we would put it in a program called Virtual Dub to turn the frames into moving pictures. And we would put that into Premiere Pro or After Effects. And from that, we could create a DVD. We would have to put it in Encore to create the DVD and then output to the DVD. Or we could even carry this movie into PowerPoint and give a slideshow. So do you guys see the idea, what they're showing here? So this is essentially,
Yes, sir.
right. So this is essentially a software workflow that we determine for the office. And what happens is that so too often today, you guys leave and you go into this office to work, and you know, and the whoever is your supervisor, they kind of do like what I did for this assignment. You know, you pick something and then you have to figure out, you know, what programs do you use and how do you jump around them to get this particular output. In some,
Wait, sir, I
yeah.
have a question.
Mhm.
The particular flow from data from client. Oh, wait. 3ds Max, Photoshop, Adobe InDesign. Okay, never mind, sir. Never mind.
Okay. So this is something that maybe some companies might have. They might say, look, this is how we produce the flyers here. We go from here, then we go to there, we go to there, and go to there. And that is called a workflow, right? So that is one of the things that you will be generating to create your illustrations for all of these challenges. But for right now, we're only focusing on the plan and the section, because over the next 2 weeks, those are the two things that we are going to present. All right. Okay, so let's look at this workflow diagram here. Where is present? Here we go. So what is a workflow diagram? Well, this is a simple illustration of it. So this is maybe one just illustrating a simple decision-making process, right? So from a previous consensus, which is an input, you possibly need to make an edit to something. It could be a document or whatever it is. Then you need to make a decision. Was the article edited further? Yes. If it was edited further, you go this way. No, it wasn't. Well, then you go to a new consensus. So yes, it was edited further. Then there's a next question. Do you agree with the changes? No, you disagree. So then you need to go back to seek compromise and then make an edit again. And then that's a loop. Yes, you agree, then it goes to the end. It's almost like a circuit, like a, you know, with electricity, right? But what happens is that with this, you can track what happened. But from the very basic point of view, this is what a workflow is. Now, in some cases, you might have a workflow that is linear, right? So you start to do something, you have an input. What do I need to do this? Locate picture of a tree. Locate picture of entourage. You know, these are the inputs that you need. In some cases, you have to validate it. You know, does the picture have transparency, whatever. And then you have to process it if it requires processing. So maybe for us, you need to add a certain effect or cut out something. Then in some cases, you need to generate a report before you output. Now, what would more relate to us is this kind of diagram. And I want us to, it looks a bit confusing when you look on the slide. I want us to be able to zoom it a bit. So let's look on it here. Here you go. There you go. Let's stick this there. All right, now this is also a workflow diagram, but it has a feature that's called swim lanes, right? And in this case, it's just making pizza, but you know, making pizza could be related to making a floor plan, right? So in this case, it starts off with the customer being hungry. They select a pizza, they order a pizza. Now we're just sticking with the customer. So they order the pizza, then they need to wait 60 minutes, ask for the pizza. The pizza not ready yet, then it comes back around and they need to wait more and so forth. So this is like a loop.
So isn't this like similar to how
Mhm.
we like write up algorithms, like I think it was like OR functions, NOR functions, else.
Exactly. So that is let's just say that it's influenced from that, right? Now, the great thing about this is that, I mean, this is all just dealing with the customer. So, you know, the customer gets a notification that the pizza is ready, then they pay for the pizza, and then they eat the pizza and so forth. And then this is the output. But the thing about when you have swim lanes is that you have other things that are happening. Because at the point where they order the pizza, then that initiated another process with the pizza shop clerk. The pizza shop clerk received the pizza. Then they basically keep track of where the pizza is. And if the customer has to be waiting, they calm the customer. They say, your food's soon ready, man. And that's pretty much all they do. Right? Now, in that case, the pizza clerk gives the pizza to, let's kind of go down here and move this over some more. He gives the pizza to the pizza chef. The pizza chef bakes the pizza. But you get the general idea, right? That these are different responsibilities that exist and the process that falls in the responsibility. Now, in some cases, you might need things to be this complex. So for example, in the office, when we are working out our workflow, you know, how does the artist work with the 3D person, right? Then we have to generate this kind of thing. But if you're doing something for, okay, let's go back here. Right. How do I get this image here into a rendering of a gate here? It might be a little simpler, and we're going to look at that. So right before we look at that though, notice in these examples that I've been showing, you see these particular shapes. And that's because these are actually industry standards for flow diagrams. And if you look in any program, even PowerPoint, even slides, kind of zoom in here. If you look at where your shapes are, most programs have the same symbols. And in most cases, they mean the same thing. So for example, the square is always a process. They have two types of square here. You know, they have decision as the diamond, and they have document as the same thing here. So take a look on your PowerPoint. It has the same thing, even Word and Excel. So this is a kind of an industry standard for laying out the process of something, right? For us, we are not doing, I remember who was it earlier that mentioned when you're dealing with logic gates and programming and those kind of things, they use this intensely. But we are not locked into that aspect. So we can augment this with diagrams and pictures and that kind of stuff, as long as we get the point across that this is how I achieve this thing. But I just want to highlight that you know that these are some of the standards for doing a flow chart. So let's get back to what we were talking about earlier when we say, how do we look on these mimic images, all of them, and determine a workflow that we can solve it? Well, I want to just introduce this very simple diagram to you. And oops. Here. And you can see all it has here is select your reference content, create an estimated process, and then do your research. So you find in tutorials and information. I put tutorials here because that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. Then we're going to update the process and then we execute. This is literally the solution for achieving any kind of mimic work, right? So let's look in this case. Now, let's say we have this grill work here. And the objective is that we want to render an image with that very same grill work. But of course, this grill work is in 3D. and it's rendered. So, how do we achieve this? So if you look on the process that we have here, can you guys see the text, or is it a bit dark?
You can see the text, sir.
You can see it? Okay. So we have the starting point here, and we say, okay, so we went to import an image into Illustrator. Now, why we import in Illustrator? Well, we're going to convert that image to vector because Illustrator would have that capability. Then, surprisingly, we're going to save that Illustrator file as a AI CS3 format. Anybody remember CS3? What we refer to as CS3? No, we never heard that term before.
The 3ds mass format.
Not 3ds. CS3 is the old versions of the
That's
Adobe.
the
product,
old version of Adobe.
Right. Because you have CC, and then is what we have now. Now it's CC.
CS6?
Right. So we had CS1, CS2, CS6, all the way to CS6, and then we'll go to CC now. And then we start to have the year. We have CC 2019, CC 2020, and so forth. But in any case, so what this is saying is that save it in this version, because this version can then be imported into 3ds Max and then extruded. So this is an interesting thing here, because this is why I tell you about knowing these types of software, because for a program to receive an Illustrator file natively, that means that there is no data loss, meaning that you didn't have to export Illustrator to something else and then import that something else into another program. The Illustrator file itself went directly into 3ds Max, as an example, so that you could extrude the shape. Now, from this point, you might say, well, do I know Max or Lumion? Because the objective is that you need to render out this gate here. So this might be where you might ask yourself a decision. So do I need to save it in a FBX format and send it into Lumion, or do I render it directly into Max? So all of this is create the estimated process. You create this process first. Then you're going to find data relating to all of these points. So for example, you may not know how to extrude in 3D Max. So you would now find a tutorial or find some research or something. In nowadays, tutorial, YouTube, whatever it is, it's so easy. You're going to find a tutorial that matches with this item that you wanted to do. Then now, usually during that process, it would help you to make the decision. Do I want to save it as FBX and go into Lumion, or do I want to render it into Max? So you would find a tutorial for this process as well. And then that would now help you to make this decision. Then now, you're going to update the process chart, and that updated process chart is what we are going to show in our presentation, right? When we have our discussion, how did you achieve this thing? Well, this was the way. All right. And then you basically execute this process. So, I mean, this seems very simple, but this is literally something that that we do every day in the office, that persons do, persons even do it subconsciously. It's just that we don't necessarily systematically lay this out like this, but that is the way to do stuff. And I can tell you that when you reach fourth year and you're trying to do that floor plan that you did in third year, you don't remember how in the world you achieved it. How did I achieve this floor plan? Well, you just look back at your process diagram. And your process diagram don't have to be complex. I mean, look at this. You know, if I don't remember how I got the grill working, I can just look back at this and say, oh yes, I had exported it into this and whatever, and that's how I got it. All right. So what we're going to do in this, well, in pretty much all of the sessions, is do this process, right? We're gonna get our reference image, and then we're gonna create an estimated process. And you know, we can even do that through conversation, because let's say that you're a person that you don't even know about you don't even know that a program named Blender. This is where your lecture comes in. We might talk and you might say, sir, I have no idea how I'm going to achieve this. And I say, well, you know, you could try Blender. Blender could achieve that. And you're like, what? What's Blender? You know, you put it down on your process chart and you say, you know, we discuss it and then we say, all right, so you're going to use Blender to export this thing. Then now you're going to move from Blender to, I don't know, Photoshop, to do something in Photoshop, right? And so forth and so forth. Now, some of you might have already known of Blender and already known of all of these programs. So for you, it's just a matter of laying them out. So you would now move ahead to the next step, which is matching each of these processes with the relevant research or tutorial. All right. And so our activity for today is that I need everyone to get to this stage in the graph for both the 3D, sorry, for both the 2D floor plan and the section.
So for
Alright.
this flow chart, are we doing it on the panels you gave us on the Miro board you were using?
No, you don't have to do it on my panels. My panels is kind of just helping to keep track of everybody because there's nothing on it that why you would have to take my panels. I literally just have your photos and, you know, a yay or a nay that this photo will or will not work. So what I want you guys to do is to share your panel with me, or, you know, with, which is really kind of submitting the
So
panel.
yeah, you don't want to share your panel with us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna share it, but you won't. I'm gonna share it because I'm gonna speak about it now, but it won't be shared where you will be manipulating it because there is nothing on it to manipulate. You get what I'm saying? There's nothing on the panel to share.
Oh, okay, sir, I understand.
Right. See where it's gone. Right. So on these panels, I literally just have the image and maybe the type of the type of effect that you guys will need to achieve to do this particular thing. Right. So how this process normally goes is that in order for you to create that workflow, for some of you, we're going to need to have a conversation. For some of you, we don't. As I was saying, you probably know a list of programs that you believe can achieve the thing. Now, I'm going to show you an example of how I would lay out one panel, and then you can basically follow suit. All right. What else are we looking at now? All right, now these are some tips that I'm going to be running through, because there are some tips here that will apply to everybody, no matter what floor plan you choose, and there are some that will not apply. All right, so so during this process, I might pause and say, okay, everyone, look on this process here. And in some cases, it might not be relevant to everyone. So it might just be between the person that I am conversing with. All right, but we're going to all do that in class. It's not like a breakout room, one-on-one, nothing like that. This is a literal discussion that we have in class, because remember the objective of this, we want to learn from each other. All right. Now, I have two examples here that I want to show you guys. Actually have the working files here. What I'm going to try and do is for each class, I'm going to try to get working files so you have a live example of actual products that was created using this kind of method, right? Here is one such product. Let me see, I do have an example here for the plan. Okay, so here's a demonstration. I have two samples actually. Which one am I going to show? Let's show this one first. Oh dear Lord, where did I put you? Oh boy. Ah, right. I remember now. No worries. Here you are. There you go. Okay. All right. Now let's look on this floor plan here. Kind of bring this up. Let me throw it on the board so you can see it. Okay, so here's a floor plan that was created, right? And well, for some of you, it might look like your floor plans, for some not, but I just want to show you this process. This was actually created for the purpose of a sales brochure, and they wanted the plans to look a particular way. So using the same process that I outlined to you, the first thing was to try and determine how we could generate a plan that looks like this. Well, granted, this is the actual plan, but I don't have the reference images from when this was done. But was it the architect or I don't even remember if it was the architect, but this is how they requested that it look. So right away, I can identify some similarities here. Well, so the shadows are sharp angled, are sharp. So I'm going to grab the hard shadow. Oops. I'm going to grab the hard shadow tag. No, where is the one supposed to be there? I can actually use the search. There we go. Ah, there you go. It also had vector work. So I'm going to grab this. Now, why do I say this? Well, because if you look at the way how the plan is laid out, most of these is primarily heavy kind of artwork. There isn't much, there isn't much soft shadows here. The shadows are mainly hard. The lines are mainly highlighted. And so that's why I say, okay, the primary features of this is the hard shadows and the vector line work. There is some amount of texture that is used here. So I grab the texture. Here we go. There we go. And the furniture and entourage has this very clean line work look to it. So I'm gonna grab, where are you? I had a category for that. What did I call it? I think I called it 2D furniture plan view. There we go. Right. All right, good. So when I look on this, I kind of determine that these are like the features that I need to produce a plan like this, right? I don't necessarily dive into software yet. I'm really just kind of looking on what is required. All right. You guys, everybody following me? Any question thus far?
So which is the vector line work?
The vector line work is really like the plan layout. It's like it's very straight and primarily about lines. And why I said that, when you compare it to maybe like this, I mean, look on the line, they're kind of sketchy, you know, not necessarily straight and clean, you know, so this is more sketchy lines, but I don't know if I use the right term, but I call it vector line work. Maybe I should call it clean line work. How about that? That's a better term. Clean line work.
I guess so.
Okay, all right, let's change this category here. This is just so that I can keep track of stuff, and it's a good practice to have. There we go. There we go. All right. So I have kind of narrowed down the primary requirements that's used to do this now. And all I really have to do is now determine the best software and the best way to achieve this, right? So, so the first thing that I might determine is that, well, where do I want to create this plan?
So if you look closely at the trees, them or the plants, they don't have any shadows on them.
True. So that might be intentional or not, but I'm just using for what it is here. But the furniture have shadows, and the furniture have a very stark white, clean lined look and feel. Now, in order to achieve this now, we might say it kind of depends where our starting point is. For you guys, you have a starting point because you're given a model, and you're given the model pretty much as line work in an AutoCAD file. That's your starting point. In some cases, your starting point might be that you have the drawing already in ArchiCAD, in Vectorworks, or whatever it is. You know, so your starting point does matter. So I would say that if I had, let's use your scenario. In your scenario, you have a DWG. Now, I wouldn't try to get these shadows in AutoCAD. Definitely not. Even if AutoCAD can give you shadows, I think it can, but for me, I perhaps wouldn't want to get it there. So my first starting point that I might want to have, so let's, this one, okay, let me use this and start from here, and then we just type start. All right, so I'm starting with DWG, right? Because that's the file that I have working with. What I'm going to do is let's work with the input. Export DWG. No, sorry. Well, it will be more of import DWG to, let me say into Revit. Right? Now, So I might want to do that. Then remember that this is DWG. These are actual just lines. So I'm not gonna get these shadow lines here.
Ricardo, mute.
Right. I'm not gonna get these shadow lines here. How can I get the lines, these lines to have shadow? Anybody? Anybody?
In Revit.
Yeah, remember I have imported this DWG, this flat DWG line work into Revit.
You have to create it in 3D now.
Right, so I have to trace the wall and the line work. Let me put, or what you can do is put the word in front of it. So I put Revit so that we know that we're talking about Revit. Trace wall and line work. All right, so that will be my next step. Question?
Yeah, sir, just to clarify, what you're doing is drawing up the process of each of these for thing that you-
Proposed process. I don't know if it will work yet. I'm just
okay.
proposing. Mhm. And this is to achieve this image here that I have here. Right? So the first thing I determined, I have identified these as the kind of digital media features, right? So remember we spoke about this earlier when we, when we discussed, oh, actually I have it in this board. When we discussed these things, here we go. We identified these being some of the main features that any digital media, any digital illustrations will have. So whether it's raster editing, vector, video, audio, 3D modeling, you know, so pretty much everything that we need to achieve what we want is found somewhere in this list. So we identify this first. And I don't think any of us is going to need programming or coding. But we just chose to identify it because it's just, you know, to achieve any kind of digital media on a computer, it's going to fall into one of these things.
Okay, sir. Okay.
You got me? Oh, I can put this in a frame. And if I put it in a frame, then I can take everything with me, right? There we go. So I'm gonna keep this close. As a matter of fact, what I could probably do is say, using this, I have identified these key points. All right. So let's continue. So we're in Revit now, and we realize that we have to trace the walls so that we can get a shadow. Because you remember these walls were flat. Now, we don't need to trace the doors. You notice that? And if we did trace the door, we'd get a kind of weird additional shadow. Agreed? You guys seen that?
Yeah, because it's
Right.
the 3D, so you create a shadow.
Right. So we only trace the walls. And then the second thing is that we probably didn't put the wall to the actual height. You know, depending on the length of the shadow, maybe we also angled the sun. So these are all details that we need to consider when tracing the wall and line work. So you might want to, for example, attach a note. Oh, they have an all shapes thing. I don't really have the one that I would want. I could just use, yeah, let me use the alternate process. Let me use this one. So now this is going to be optional. If I wanted to, for the purpose, remember some points here, like do not trace doors. What was another one that we said? What do you want to say about the shadows now? Maybe don't let shadows be too long. Right? So these might be some points that I want to consider when doing that process. Right? Maybe there's more, but I'll just show you two here as an example. All right. Now, you may or may not want to highlight this because this might be going into too much detail. You know, it depends on your scenario. If you,
Sir,
yeah.
we have to do this before we start to work on our plans.
Well, yes. You don't have to do these fine details if you don't want to, or if you believe you don't need them, but you have to do this major path, right? I start with a DWG, I import it into Revit, I trace the wall and line work to achieve shadows, right? These were some points to remember. This is optional. You can choose whether or not you want to have notes that go with your thing. As a matter of fact, well, anyway, you know, I would not. So let's look what else we would need to do. Now we'll come to the interesting part. What about the furniture? How do you propose we would get the furniture to have this stark white look?
Was it that you said?
How would you propose to achieve this furniture? We're now in Revit.
Just use the families in Revit. Some of them come like that.
Right. So we could just use the families in Revit, and you know, we don't have to turn on color when we use them, right? We could just output them as line work. So our next step could be, sorry, this should actually be a square. Can I change it? Yes, because square means process, whereas these parallelograms mean input or output. Well, rectangles are squares. They just mean an alternate process. So pretty much you're going to be using circles, parallelograms, and squares. So the next thing that we'll probably want to do is add furniture. Using Revit families. There we go. And maybe you have notes to this, but as I said, the notes are optional, right? The notes are especially important when you want to remember what you did, because just using these alone and you know, showing it to somebody or showing it to yourself 2 years in the future, you might not even remember these other things. All right. Now, after that, we probably now want to, how would you get this tile work done? Any suggestions?
You can do tiling in Revit as well. You can change the layering, not the layering, sorry, but the cover of the floor into that and then change the color.
Okay, that is true.
But
However,
Photoshop.
You can use pattern to get the rectangular thing.
So go again with that one. So you would use, I heard that you can do it in Revit, and I heard what? Or Photoshop? That's what you said? Because my concern would be that these tiles are textured. Everybody see that? So I wouldn't try to get this tile work done in Photoshop. I would try, sorry, in Revit. I would try to get it done in Photoshop. We agreed?
So why do you say you do it in Photoshop?
Because the tile work is textured. It has a kind of a realistic textured look, meaning it's not a flat color.
Yes, sir, that's what I was saying. If you're doing it in Revit, you could change the pattern. I mean,
Oh, what's going on?
you can take the
Good.
pattern of the internet for one,
Mhm.
and then get that pattern and the texture.
All right, good. Now, I'm glad that we brought that up because from what I'm hearing, I heard two different suggestions. So we could produce floor pattern in Revit. I would not have to go into details necessarily about it. I would just want to keep it, you know. Or we could produce it in, I shouldn't say pattern, I should say texture. I'm going to put PSD, that means Photoshop. Or we could produce it in Photoshop.
SketchUp, that's the easiest way. Easier. So dry line them in underscore like easy one to texture.
So now we come into the question of maybe things like efficiency, because you could pull the pattern in Revit. However, one thing that you need to consider when you're doing this kind of artwork is flexibility. Because you guys would know already that if you want to produce everything out of Revit, you're going to be tied into whatever features Revit has. So from a photo editing perspective, Revit does not have anything like that, right? So I would not want to necessarily try and output this type of creative drawing in a Revit environment because, you know, look at these lamps here that have a glow here. I mean, yeah, you could look for a PNG that have it and carry it into Revit, but it's just, you're doing that thing where you're forcing one software that's not necessarily tuned to do something else.
So it's about choosing the best software that can effectively get what you want.
Right. And some of this come from experience. I mean, you know, I couldn't talk to the guy who did the planning in Excel, you know, but you know, you might have the experience that, nah, man, Revit can do this thing. Now, I mean, I just want to bring you back to this table here just to say that, look, the programs are meant to achieve certain things primarily and then secondarily, right? So you have to remember that in Revit, which is an architectural program, yeah, the line work, wall line work and all that stuff, yeah. Shadows, nice, accurate shadows, yeah, man. But then you're going to go into texturing now, and you know, it's like you're going to go into a zone that maybe it's possible if you kind of bend and twist it, but you have to kind of decide that, no, I don't want to risk locking myself in that box. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to go into Photoshop to do the other items. However, before we can go into Photoshop, how do we output this drawing? Let me look back on the plan. Any suggestions? When we need to come out of the program, how are we going to come out of Revit?
Is this export to PNG using the 15,000 pixels option?
Right? You could go to export to PNG. Now, the other things to consider is, for example, with Revit, in order to get your shadows, you have to export as raster, right? So we're coming to this discussion about raster and vector. So once we come out as raster, you know that we won't be able to edit these line work and so forth. But we're not, so, you know, if you're going into Photoshop, it doesn't really matter because we're not really prioritizing line work. So we could come up with a PNG, and then what would happen is that the background below the tiles would be, well, it would not be transparent. It would be white. And then you would have to cut it out. Everybody seen that?
Sir, go again. You said the background will be white and then you have to cut out what?
Right. So if, let me try and find this. Is which one of these? The ground floor or it's the basement? I'm trying to find this drawing here. I think it's that one. But anyway, hopefully I can find it for you. I have to upgrade the model. Yeah. Right. So remember that we just now have the line work, the wall and the shadows. But when we come out of this as a PNG, the background is going to be white. Right? Revit will not give you nice transparency coming out of Revit. And this is because we just, you know, Revit is just not a photo editing sensitive program to give you that kind of stuff. So you're going to basically have a white flat drawing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like the floor. Yeah, but actually is the paper. Okay, so
Right, it's going to be the paper, right? So, well, I'm opening it in the background. I hope it's this plan here. Whenever it opens, I'm not even sure if it's this one. But anyway, so what I would do is, in order to go into Photoshop, I would want to split this into three different imports. I would want to say, all right, I'm going to export zoom in. I'm going to export the wall. Walls, let me see, walls plus shadows, because the wall is going to come automatically with the shadows. Not wider. And I'm going to export that as maybe as a PNG, as you said. And then I'm also going to export the furniture. Oh, cool, I can do this. Okay. Plus shadows. So I'm going to end up with two PNGs. Right, and the reason for doing this, having this layering approach, is that I would end up with more flexibility, right? As a matter of fact, I'm trying to even go by memory here. There were 3 different layers. The walls, the shadows and I think the furniture came out with the shadows. If I remember. So I'm kind of going off of what I would do now because I don't exactly remember what happened, right? And the reason for this now is that I can now have the shadows by itself that I can control things like the transparency. I mean, do you guys notice that? Look on the tile line here. You can see that it's
It's kind of disjointed, sir, and some of them kind of overlap.
well, don't look on the distraction because that's just because of the screen capture. But I'm just saying that it's the shadow falls over the tile line. Because remember, when you export this directly from Revit, the shadows will not be transparent in the other program that you're using.
Okay. Oh, it would just cover the tile lines.
Tile, exactly. So you need to have the shadows by itself. Right? And the walls by itself and the furniture. I think the furniture could go with the no, actually you would need the shadows and the furniture different too, right? Now this approach is called layering. Sometime in the office we call it sandwiching, as you can see why. Because so we go furniture and shadows. So furniture shadows and furniture objects. There we go. There we go. So you kind of end up with these PNG files, each having different things. Now, instead of going into Photoshop, well, what happened is that we carried the shadows where are the two shadows? Right, so the two shadows there. So we carried the shadows into Photoshop to make shadows transparent. Because Photoshop is, of course, image editing. So we could carry it in there, and this would just be the two shadows alone we're making transparent. So you might be saying, so why don't you carry in the walls and the furniture into Photoshop? And the reason we don't is that we don't want to, one very important thing you have to remember, if you're producing work in Photoshop, it's going to be rasterized, right? That term is coming back again. It's going to be raster. It's going to be pixels, which means that it's going to be finite in size. If I want to print it on a billboard, it's going to be limited to whatever you had your canvas set to. So from a professional standpoint, we didn't know where these drawings will end up. They could end up in a magazine, but they could end up on a billboard, which it, in fact, did end up. And we didn't want it to be blurry. And
sir,
so, yeah.
You said it's going to be limited to something about, all right. The reason I was asked, is this going to be placed on Miro at any point in time, this thing that we're working on?
Well, this example that we're working on, this workflow, I would suggest that you lay it out in Miro. But suppose you want to use PowerPoint.
The reason why is because there's a point in time when I was trying to upload things on Miro and the DPI, I don't know if it's the resolution. Something.
Yeah, there's a limit.
There's
a limit. But I mean, I don't believe you would be. You don't want to be carrying high resolution. We're not going to put.
He needs to pay to get access to more. To raise the limit. You can buy the packages, but nobody here ain't doing that. So yeah.
Right, and I don't need to have any high resolution things in Miro. For what we're doing, we're just doing a little workflow diagram. We don't need to worry about high resolution for printing and whatever. So I don't think you'll be reaching those limits. You know what I mean? And if you do, you can reduce the size of whatever you have. All right. See if this thing opened. All right. Anyway, let's stick to this workflow. I want to go through this quickly. Now, for these now, we actually, these are actual outputs. So we actually save these out as PDFs, not PNGs. So export PDF of furniture objects and export PDF of wall. And the reason we did this is so that, because we went into Illustrator because we wanted to keep the vector line work capabilities, right? So here we go. So then we pretty much just layered everything in Illustrator over each other. So let me just put layer everything in AI. Come on. All right, so then what we have is that these shadows that we manipulated in Photoshop, we carried that in AI, and then we also aligned these two PDF drawings as well in AI. So then what we end up with is just the shadows that would be raster, meaning, you know, they have a finite size. But that didn't matter because we might need to manipulate the blurriness or the transparency. All of these things was better manipulated by having the shadows in Photoshop. So then when we layer everything together, then everything is outputted from Illustrator for this scenario. And then this would be the workflow. So of course, there are other steps that would take place, but this is the proposed workflow, and then you would actually execute this. You would actually do this now. You would follow this and do it. And then maybe you discover that the PDF is not exporting correctly as from whatever, so you might need to change this or change that. All right, everybody understand me so far? These should actually be import export. Any questions?
No.
All right, anybody don't quite understand how we would lay this out?
I think we pretty much get it, sir.
You pretty much get it. All right, so let's look at this now. This is the working file for that process that we came up with, right? And if you look on you can kind of see the line work here. You see it? So this line work came directly out of Illustrator. And it really made a difference carrying it out as a PDF against carrying it out as a like JPEG or PNG, because this was kept consistent. So for example, I'm going to open the final delivery, the file that was delivered to the client. If this mouse would just behave itself. Come on. Okay, good. Where are you? Final file. Here you go. Oh boy. So you notice how you see these files here? These are the different programs that they went through. You can see a bunch of Revit files, you can see a bunch of PNG files, files that just have the shadows alone. So let me show you that. Sorry about that. Let's see. This one here. Nah, not that one. I'm just this by type. Okay, good. That makes stuff easier to find. No, this was a different style. Ah, here we go. So this was the final file that was delivered. Now, if you look at this, going through all of that trouble to export the PDF, it kept these lines as vector. So therefore, it don't matter how large you print this, these lines would be straight. But look at the shadow lines. You seen that? You seen the stair step in?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Right, but this could be smudged out in Photoshop. Right, so that's why we passed that through Photoshop, but everything else is kept as vector. As a matter of fact, this isn't the one. This one had 3D furniture here. It didn't have the white furniture, right? But as I said, what I tried to do with this is to get actual produced files, just to show you what the work process would be like, all right? Now, I'm not going to go through the next sample in so much detail. I just want to kind of show it so that I give you guys time to produce the other work. But like, look at this other version here. Oh, I can't preview it now. I have to open it actually. Oh, well. Now, the reason why you might end up with most of the plans coming out in Illustrator is just because they're primarily line work related. All right, so I would speak about another matter. Just want to show you this other thing real quick so we can move on. All right. I'm just going to show you guys just one more sample. There are 2 samples there that I have. Oh, finally, jeez. Okay, right. So this would be another example of another format. Now, maybe I should do this one in detail, but I'm just going to talk it. So this one, for example, is a different style. Noticeably, what is different in this is the furniture. You can kind of see that the furniture has some amount of depth to it. And I notice some of you have plans that look like this. You might be lucky enough to find furniture like this that's already available to you. But in other cases, you might need very specific furniture. So in this case, furniture was opened in like a rendering program. So for some of us, SketchUp, for example. Well, no, we didn't. Well, SketchUp, if you have SketchUp for V-Ray, or maybe even Lumion. The furniture was turned to a top view, and then it was saved out as as a PNG image and then place back in the 2D plan. And that's where you end up with this nice kind of three-dimensional look in a 2D plan atmosphere.
And so you did this?
Right, this was another plan that was done. Right, so we also have the working files for this, but I don't know if we don't have the time to dissect it, because remember,
No,
we need
wait.
to talk about sections.
No, sir, I'm asking if you did this.
Yeah, this one I worked on, so I'm more familiar with the process. The other one was in the office. We sometimes the work is shared, it depends.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, guess what? Let's say this other plan that was done, I wanted to know the process. Now, I wanted to show you this workflow diagram that was recorded. And this one was recorded not as a diagram, but as a set of instructions. And look on the set of instructions here. Clean up CAD drawing, export and save walls only as CAD file, remove all furniture and save. So this now, instead of it being a process diagram, it is steps, you know, and the software that was taken in the steps and so forth. So, I mean, you know, this is in an office, but for us, we're using a process diagram, but it doesn't mean that in the working world, you have to always use a process diagram. Some persons are more comfortable with a list and to document it. And in this case, it was documented because other persons needed to follow this instruction to create another plan. All right. And the examples of that. So all of that was documented there. Okay. Now, back to our thing now. So this is the kind of process that I want us to go through. I want us to just, for those of us who think they know what programs they can use, just document out your plan. For those of you that's not sure, I can speak to you about it. All right. One interesting thing about this workflow, and this is another word that I want you guys to remember, is called non-destructive editing. Right? So that is a term that I want to introduce to you guys. And what non-destructive editing mean is that if, for example, the furniture layout changed, let's say that you decided to, you know, take out a table or a chair. Well, this entire process could still go through by just updating these files, meaning you don't have to go back and do over stuff from scratch. So that is what is non-destructive editing. Now, almost every program has a feature for doing this. Even Revit, for those of us who have used Revit before, features like linking and referencing. Have you guys ever used that feature in Revit? Like when you link
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
the file instead of copying it in. So that is along the lines of what we describe as non-destructive editing. Now, the trait is that when you use a program that is primarily catered to a particular use, it will more support non-destructive editing in that use case. So for example, Revit is an architectural program. So Revit can allow you to link like details and drawings in a way that when you update those drawings, it does updates in your drawing. And that's because Revit is made to do that kind of drawing primarily. But let's say you're using Illustrator, like that artwork scenario that I brought out earlier, where somebody was trying to draw something in Illustrator that resembles an architectural drawing. Now, Illustrator has non-destructive editing, but it doesn't cater to architecturally related stuff. But it caters to artwork related stuff. So let me give you an example. Even in this drawing that you see here, let me show you another example here. There's so much here. Can I open one of these? Let's see. All right, let's just use I'm just gonna use a new document because some of these files, some of these working files are big. So I can't always show working files. But let's say you have this, for example, and in this particular case, maybe you have an asset that you want to utilize, like a couch or a table or something like that. So I'm going to show you now. So like this plant that we saw earlier. Well, let's drag it out into Illustrator. And notice that in Illustrator, by default, you have this X here. And this is what this does. It really stores a link to that file. So therefore, if, for example, you wanted to modify the image of the plant here, so maybe you carry this into Photoshop and you change, for example, the brightness of the plant. You wanted it to be more colorful. Well, okay, good. Let's do that again. Right. So let's say that for whatever reason you wanted the style to be black and white, something that you can see. So let's make it black and white. Well, then you save and you update it there. And the idea is that Illustrator will ask you to update and then notice that it's black and white. Now, this works for just about any type of file because you could have, yeah?
The internet just cut off. Where was the option that you just went to that I saw? It was like photo or something like that.
Right. So basically, I'm saying that you could have an artist that is working on this file in Photoshop, and it will automatically update in Illustrator whenever the person saves. So that is a part of what you call non-destructive editing. You don't have to delete this object and re-import it again. It will just directly update for you.
But you have to link them?
Right, you have to link them. But by default,
no, you went on an option just now, that was, or a thumbnail or it's not thumbnail.
All right, I showed, here we go. This is that file that we edited earlier. So we edited this file, saved it, and then it updated in Illustrator automatically.
Yeah, but you went on an option that changed the light or something like that.
Right, that is, oh, that's the built-in editing properties in Windows. You can actually click edit and you can edit. Basically, I've stripped down a really version of what you can do in Photoshop. All right, so this process of non-destructive editing is a second thing for you guys to consider. Now, you don't have to worry about it for this assignment because, you know, it's just a one-time thing. But think about when you're doing something for your studio, when you need to show a particular diagram and you know that after your interim, things might change. Well, you need to set up things on your board in a way that you don't have to reset up the board every time you have to present. Right? And that is what you call non-destructive editing. It exists in many different forms, but essentially it entails linking different files together rather than copying and replacing them. All right. Let me give you one more example of non-destructive editing that you may even use when you're doing this assignment. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use back this same plant again. So maybe you have this plant. This is in Photoshop now. And you add this plant in Photoshop. So maybe you realize that because of how your drawing looks, you need to modify maybe the shape of the plant. Let's say that. Well, by default, when you drag objects into Photoshop, it comes in as a smart object, which you can see here. Now, a smart object means that it can basically be edited non-destructively. And I'll show you that example. Now, let's say that this object is not a smart object. And what I'm doing is duplicating it there. And I'm going to rasterize this. Somebody asked about rasterizing earlier. So I'm going to rasterize this. Rasterize there. So you can see clearly that one of this has a mark there, which indicates that it is a smart object, and the other one does not have that mark there. So the idea is that the one that is a smart object, you can edit it, mess with it, and it will try to keep those modifications so that you can change it later. So let me give you the first example. So let's say that you wanted to change the shape of this. Okay, so let me use this first one here. I'm going to put them side by side. All right. So this one here is over here. This one here is the one that is a smart object. Now, if I go to, let's say, image and go to transform, let's say that I want to distort it or something. You know, depending on what I'm doing with it, I want to distort something that way. Choose save. Well, I can always, if you look on the smart object here, I can always go back to distort. And it will save the last change that I made. So I can continue editing it. Whereas if I did that to the not smart object, so let's go to distort here. Then once I click OK, it's changed for life. Meaning, you know, when I go back to it, if I go back to distort, then it's just going to distort it again. It doesn't store that information within it. So that is another form of non-destructive editing, meaning you can go back and edit again. For those of us who are familiar with Photoshop, sometimes we use filters. So let's say that we add a filter. What's a popular filter that we use? Film grain, maybe? No? Maybe let's do watercolor. That's a popular one here. So we might do an effect like this, and we might maybe change the effect a little bit. Oh, that's too dark. All right, there we go. So we have a kind of watercolor effect. That's what you can see here. Now, once we click OK, that change is applied to the object. You can't go back and edit it. But when you add it to a smart object, filter, watercolor, and it should use the last settings. There we go. And what you notice is that the smart object stores it as a layer. Everybody sees that?
Yes, sir.
So you can even turn that on or off. So it stores the original image. Now, these are just some examples of non-destructive editing. So it's not just about linking files together, but it's also about how you work. You work in a way, you try to work in a way that knowing that you might go back and edit later. And you don't have to do something over from scratch.
So what you would say, non-destructive or destructive?
So this is
editing?
non-destructive. So these examples I'm showing you are examples of a non-destructive approach to doing artwork.
Yeah, but I was saying which one you would say is the preferred route to take.
No, you always try to be non-destructive first. There are some times when you just cannot avoid it. It's not every program that will allow you to link. For example, Lumion has a live link. When you're editing one, the other one will edit, you know. But other programs, you have to export, replace a file, then import to import the object again. Every time you have to delete the old object and import the new object. So sometimes you can't avoid doing that, but other times, if you have the ability to import and update, you would use that. So that is what you call non-destructive editing. Now, I can't demonstrate to you non-destructive tips because there are like a million. It's just like an approach that you have. You have to, whenever you're doing something, you first think to yourself, what if I have to change this later? You know, is there a way to do this so that I don't have to do this again? Or think about having to copy something 2-3 times. Here is another example of that we would be familiar with in architecture in doing non-destructive editing. So for example, where did I put those plans? Okay, here we go. Now, these drawings that I showed you here are units, but if you look closely, okay, that, right, good. And this one. So if you look closely, you will see that this unit and this unit is similar, but what is different about it is the stair and that it is flipped. As one example, the bed is also not there. But so in thinking about this in a non-destructive approach, what you would try and do is the same couch that you use in this unit, you would use it in this unit too. So that if the client says, I want a purple couch, then when you change the color of the couch, it will update in all your drawings. You guys understand this concept?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, good. You also have this in Revit. If you use a family and you update the family, then it will update in your drawing. So the approach of doing non-destructive work is not something that is limited to Photoshop or Illustrator or Revit. It's just a way of thinking. At this stage of that you are in the game, you start to think of this way when you're doing artwork. All right. So the most I can do is give you examples, and then I have to leave your brains to investigate. Is there a non-destructive way of doing this thing that I'm doing? All right. Okay, so let me go back to, all right. So what I want now is that how the schedule is going to work is our objective is to do the proposed workflow for achieving these plans. If you think that you may not know how to achieve it, then all you need to do is raise your hand and we'll talk about it. But I want you to look on each of the plans that you have and the sections. What time is it now? It's now 5:42.
Sir, can I create a big giant red question mark by my work?
Oh, question mark, where? Okay, yes, let's go through this. So guys, I want you guys to start doing your workflow. Do it on a board that you can share with me. I suggest Miro board. If you don't want to use Miro, does something that I can see. All right.
So will you be sharing this with us?
Well, I'm sharing it with you now. I can share this board with you. Let me just hit share and let me copy this link and I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
So you can browse around to your drawing. Where is the chat? Here.
Sir, question. I submitted everything, but I see a question mark.
Oh, maybe I didn't see it. But hold on, who was first? Was it Bonita that asked me? You raise your hand first?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might want to right beside of Bonita want to say so. Meaning.
All right, hold on, we're going, just raise your hand. Does Zoom tell you who raised their hand first? I don't think so. But in the meantime, the rest of us guys, remember, our objective today is that we want to create the proposed workflow. All right? That is what I need you guys to create. And that is what I need you guys to submit. Now remember that next class is when you guys will be showing me your workflow. So you have pretty much 1 week to do the plan. You just need to do the plan in the 1 week. You don't need to do the section. Next week, we talk about the section. All right, guys?
Yes,
now,
sir.
we have one more class. Well, you have a lecture with Miss Ramrock on Wednesday. I don't have you on Wednesday because I'm teaching something else, but well, I don't know if you need to speak to me. I don't think so. I think you guys will be fine. You guys will be fine, man. Just come up with the workflow so that we can conclude our job today. So that next week, in 1 week time, you can produce the plan. All right, Bonita, which one is yours now? Bart, so you're beginning.
Yeah.
All right, so you say you gave me your objective?
Yeah, the circulation piece. I don't know why it didn't upload.
All
Or
right,
maybe
but
I
remember
didn't
that
do
that
it
button
live.
wasn't working. No, actually, no, this button was working. Oh,
Or was
sorry
the
to cut you
section button
again.
not working?
Right, so guys, please upload your section diagrams now, please.
I uploaded 2 times there.
Yes, sir. I uploaded everything.
Okay, got the button working now. All right.
Sir, but when I did, everything was working.
So
sir.
everything-
Only one I see. You have for me.
So I upload everyone on mine, sir. Not everyone, but I'll check again still.
Okay. All right. So let's
Could we change the things that we select that you already accept?
go with that question again.
If we can change, let's say like Lorenzo, he has his both of them ticked. Could he change it?
Yeah, I would give you a chance to query to change it. Query. Your reasons have to be good.
Oh, you can't just change it just like that.
Well, no, because remember that I have looked at it and analyzed it, already. So that's why we choose already. That's why we submit the files already. So, I mean, just give me the reason why you'd want to change it, and then we'll see about that. All right. So, Bonita, I am looking for your image now. This is your objective image, right?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh. I think I might re-upload my exploded power line, but that's later down the road.
Okay. Because how the schedule is that for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be dealing with the first 2. So next week, we're presenting plan. We're going to do that. That's supposed to take like half the class, hopefully, or less than half. We talk about the section. And then the following week, we present the section. All right. Students. I'm looking for yours. I'm checking the submissions again. All right, here we go. Submit plan communication objective. Right, here we go. Okay. No, this is objective we're looking for now. No, I don't see it. What is it?
Okay, I'll upload it
Okay, good.
now.
All right, good. All right. Stephen. So put down your hand, Bonito.
Yes, sir.
So I don't call on you again. Yes, Stephen, what's up?
Yes, it's in all of my documents, them, sir.
So A. Right. I didn't see your communication image.
And that's for the perspective, right? And
No, that's for the plan.
plan,
Yeah, you say you sent it?
communication image. Which image that?
Mm,
So the circulation data.
right. I'm not seeing you
Oh.
in the submission list, so you need to send that to me.
Sorry, you're seeing me in the submit? Oh.
All right. Who else I see? Ashina, Johnson,
Oh, so yes, no, sir. Yeah, Mr. Yes. All right, thanks.
Johnson, so going all the way to J. Where is? Yeah. You're asking about your question. You sure you send it to me, Johnson?
Yes, sir. I sent all of them, sir. I did it once. And I
Hold on,
sent
you send
everything.
everything in one submission?
Yes, sir.
Oh. Oh, well, you see, I have two different lists, so that's why. No, but hold on. I only see one picture here, which is this. Yeah, that's the only picture I see.
I don't understand.
I don't understand either. You sure you click the button? You remember there's a button on the bottom that's a communication objective.
I clicked every button, sir. I remember. Oh my gosh.
Can you find back your image?
Yes, sir. They're on my laptop.
Okay, good. Livingston.
Yes, sir. I saw you have a question sign with, on the object.
All right. L.
Yeah.
L.
Right there.
Right. All right. The reason I have a question mark here is because of the scale.
Oh.
Yeah, because I mean,
Clearer or bigger.
I mean, I understand, but because this is like a complex routing scenario. I mean, I don't know if it will fit.
Option. You want me to? I can resub. I had two options, but I see
Yeah.
someone submitted the other one that I have. But yeah.
Right. So submit another one that's more scale appropriate.
Sir, I submitted mine, but I'm not sure if you're seeing it. So I don't know if I should like resubmit it.
Hold on, just raise your hand. I'm going down the list. Zane.
Yes, sir.
What's your last name again?
Finnegan. Finni. Oh, see there. Oh, it's a circulation diagram.
Right, you said you sent that?
Oh, I just realizing that I never seen it.
All right, so you need to send that. Ashine, sorry, no, wait, Johnson and Livingston, put on your hands, and Michael, where you gone? You put on your hand already? Hutchinson?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing
Oh,
mine.
you
on-
checking? Oh, okay.
Not seeing mine on here, sir. So
H. Yeah, not seeing a name. Okay. How comes?
I don't know if it's just not on the
You say you
submission.
submitted it? Yeah, not seeing your name. You sure you submitted?
Yes, sir. I submitted it.
Via the form?
Yes, sir.
All right, submit it again.
All right, sir.
Because you're not seeing your name here at all. Who else is here? Ria. Oh, sorry, wait, no, not Ria yet. Maya.
Sir. Oh,
Maya hand was up first.
yes, sir. I realized I don't have a thingy beside my floor plan, but it's because when I was trying to submit, it wouldn't allow me to submit again. So I guess I'll just try and submit it again for the circulation of the floor plan. And then I realized that my section don't have a ticket, so I guess that means it wasn't approved.
No, man, it is approved. I realized that I think somewhere along the line, I realized it's better I just put question or X because, most of them was correct anyway. So if you don't see it, that's why it's okay.
And so get a ticket, sir.
Okay, I can give you a ticket if you still want a ticket.
Okay, thank you.
What happened to everyone? I mean, I know we're not necessarily ready for it coming next week, but we need the communication objective for the sections. I see some persons with it and a lot of persons don't have any. So
I just uploaded mine, sir.
all right. Ria.
So for
Yes,
my
sir.
What up,
Sir,
Ria?
what I basically did was.
Oh, no. Yes, Ria, you don't have to explain. I see it.
Yeah, sir, the buttons weren't working for the communication objective part, and also I didn't fully understand what I was doing, so I kind of sent the communication objective plus the regular photo that we were supposed to upload. So they're all basically communication objectives submitted in the
Right.
visual part.
Right. I have realized that. So you did not warrant that question mark. So, right. I see
But sir,
that
I
here.
should still upload the regular photos with no communication objectives since
No, you
because I
don't
still
have
feel
to.
like I have to upload.
You don't have to. You don't have to. In your case, your photos have the objective. It's fine.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yeah, man. Maya and Rhea, put down your hands. And Hutchinson, unless you did put up your hand again, put on your hand. Then there is Ryan.
Yes, sir. I have a question mark too. I couldn't upload the section because I couldn't press the button, but I uploaded it to the floor plan using the floor plan button.
Okay, cool. Yeah, did you send me a?
Yes, sir. I uploaded everything.
James, actually, yeah, you're right. You did.
Yeah, see there, the one that says section is a section.
No.
Oh, you put it there. But I uploaded other two too.
But I don't, what I see here is this, which is the same as the communication objective.
Yeah.
Meaning this was uploaded for the communication objective and the visual technique.
Yeah.
So, but what are you highlighting in this? Is it that this one image does both?
Yes, sir.
So, but where is either circulation or passive versus active ventilation?
Wait, sir, wasn't one of them shadows?
No, sir.
You sure?
No, man, you make up that one.
Oh, okay. Imagination.
All
Excuse
right.
me, question.
What before you ask the question, let's put up your hand because I have a line of persons here. Campbell, Chrisann.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I uploaded two of them. You can check. I just re-uploaded them.
All right. Okay, cool. Basically, guys, you want to make sure that you're good for next week. All right. That you have your objective and everything set. Because remember how we're going through, we're just going through grade and continue. Right? I don't remember the percentage. Was it 22% for the presentation and 8% for the hand-in? So that's basically it. So for the presentation, guys, this is important for you to know. For the presentation, even if, let's say, you have not, it is more about the process than the end result. I'm saying that very carefully because, you know, I don't want you to come with literally just your workflow diagram and say hand it in, because obviously that's not going to work. But the reason I'm saying this is that the purpose of the presentation, it's really a discussion, because what we're doing, you're showing me your work and we're discussing how you have achieved this work. And it is through that discussion you get your grade. Now, if you choose to hand in at that point, then you get your hand in grade. But this first grade, which is weighted more, is more about the process that you have used to do your mimic image. So I don't want you to feel bad if, for example, you did your image, but for whatever reason, it don't really look like the mimic. Maybe it began to look like it, but it fall off at some point. It's not as if that is a fail, because it is about the process, right? And when you're handing, it's about how it look. So before I continue with the checking on the plans, do you guys understand that explanation?
Yes, sir, we understand that.
Okay, good. So don't prioritize. What happened is that sometimes in the past, there are people that don't present, and they don't present because the drawing don't look right. And I keep saying, guys, then it is not about the drawing looking right. The assignment is like it's divided into two halves. You have the discussion, which is worth more than the actual handing. When you present, that is not necessarily your handing. That is really just a discussion on your process. But you can't just come and talk. You have to show. So you can't just discuss and say, well, I plan to use this and I plan to use that, and this is my workflow. I'm going to say, so where's the work? Show me the work, right? Now, we don't necessarily have to open up the Revit file and open up the Photoshop file and all of these things. We're not going to dive down that deep, but we might ask questions like, you know, like we might look on the shadow and say, boy, that shadow don't look like your mimic image. And then you might say, well, boy, I couldn't find the option to properly do this and properly do that or whatever. And then out of that discussion, you know, whatever the solution comes up. but you would have had to have shown me what you have done. You see, I don't want to call it an interim because it's really not, it's not an interim either. Because over the years, some persons, when you do this, they just hand it in, I'm done. If it's successful, you're done, you hand it in, you get your hand in grade. But if you feel that you want to go back and work on it because whatever, I mean, you're done going to get your presentation grade as long as you, your, let's call it discussion grade, as long as we have discussed. And then when you're handing, you're handing. All right. Is there any question relating to that explanation that you want to know?
No, sir. No, sir.
I'm just making sure you get it because I've seen some interesting presentation over the years. I've seen people that just come with a workflow diagram and no work. And you know, I can't, there's nothing to discuss if you come with that. Even if you come with an incomplete plan, you know, and we could say that you started the process or whatever, but you have your workflow and you say that you were following your workflow. Because what happened, some persons meet up on a brick wall, you know. Some persons start to follow and then, I don't know, they just realize that after spending hours, this program doesn't work and they have to learn a new program or whatever. And through that process, they never get to finish. Still come and discuss. The grade is about the discussion, not about the final handing. I'm just making sure I reiterate that over and over again. All right. And I'm sure your studio lecturers tell you that all the time. It's better you present than don't present. But I know how we architecture persons are. If it's not the best, we don't want to show it. Well, I'm not asking you for the best final version. I'm asking you for your process diagram and show me the process that links to the process diagram. And if we determine, and if you decide that it is successful, you're done. Okay, moving on. So I was at, no man, who was that before Ricardo?
Moving.
No, somebody said they just submitted a while ago.
Chrisan.
Yes, Chrisan, right. What did you submit, Chrisan?
I submitted the 2 workflow diagrams.
Okay, so one is for the plan. Am I right?
Sir, I only uploaded 2 different variations of the plan. There was supposed to be another one for the section, don't it?
Right, but hold on, but aren't you supposed to? But you put in the wrong section, the wrong part.
Oops. Sorry.
Anyway, I'm going to grab it from here and put it in the board.
Okay, and then I'll just
okay.
do the section on, and you can
Right.
look for it after.
So I'm going to drop this here. So guys, the board, the link that I've shared with you, check your board, make sure that I have, you know, put the correct image where you are, because that's what I'm coming expect to speak about for class. Let me give you, so you are good to go there. Then next, Jordan.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So my internet is going in and out. I don't know if you explained what the question marks were, but I had a question mark on the section.
All right. Which one are these? You give me 2. I suspect it's this one because this was too simple.
Too simple?
Yeah, man. Remember we spoke about that last week? As a matter of fact, hold on. Somebody else had that same thing.
So I believe that he used any image before, but just the section on top and the one below came as one image, so he didn't separate it.
Right. So remember, well, but remember you can separate it. I mean, you guys are skilled enough to, you know, snip or crap or whatever. So, but
and I also
hold on, Jordan. I just want to jump as you bring up that point to Mr. Wright. Yeah, this one, this one not gonna fly. This one too simple. Or is it that it's just your communicative diagram?
Sir, that is just the communicative.
Ah, okay. Well, then I will change this to, because obviously that technique is just like,
I'm re-uploading the floor plan now.
all right, cool.
And
Great. So I'm
so that,
jumping back
little
to
section. There's another one, question mark beside my section.
Oh, is there no? Sorry to go. No, all right. Which one? You
Yeah.
sent two.
Yeah, that's not mine, sir. I'm not sure that.
Oh, maybe it's an error then. Okay, my bad. All right, good. All right, I'm coming back to you now, Jordan. Thank you for making me reminding me of that. Right. So we're dealing with this one. So I'm actually just gonna crop this down. All right. So this is good to go. Wellington?
Sarah was just telling you that the button started to work, so I got to upload them, and I wanted you to check if you saw them, sir.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
That is good to go. All right, so what I want to do, what about Franklin?
Yes, sir.
Done. Okay, yeah, Frank. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm going down the list. I don't want to go away from my list. So Wellington, you said you gave me the section. Guess what? I'm not gonna look at the section yet. Just let me finish with the plan because time is going and I want to make sure we're good to go for next week. So
sorry, I resubmitted mine now.
all right, so back now to Bonita. Yeah.
Sir, I submitted mine and I want to know if it's good because it's a kind of a iffy one. So
All right,
if you could
no
check.
problem. This is your communication objective. There we go. Okay. Okay, what you going to do? Passive versus active and use that method?
Yeah.
All right, no problem. That's fine. It's fine.
Sure, that's next to Stephen, by the way.
Oh, sorry. All right, there we go. Hutchinson, you just didn't put on your hand yet, right?
I raised it again, sir. I just want to see if you saw my submissions.
Same here, sir. Mario Morris has submitted the circulation diagram. So just making sure you got it.
Oh, Hutchinson, right. Yours were missing. Yours was missing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm gonna drop you in right here. All right. All right. Let me make sure that your name is there. You, hold on, you submit via the link, via the thing, right?
Submitted via the website, sir.
So why not seeing your name? What did you submit?
I submitted right, let me see.
Double check it.
Sorry, passage.
Sorry, can you look at mine as well and let me know if that one works after you're done?
I submitted the floor plan, the 2D, 3D section, the 3D visualization, and the diagrammatic. And I submitted
Yeah,
it via the website where.
I use the buttons and everything.
Yes, sir.
All right, maybe taking a little while. All right, keep your hand up. Maurice.
So
You sent
just I
everything?
submitted my circulation thingy while you're talking, but I don't know if you got it. 1 and 2. I don't know if it's okay.
Let me refresh and see. I wonder if it was my thing taking a while to update, because I'm not seeing where it pop in for me yet. Yeah, Kennedy.
Yes, sir. I resubmitted my plan for the communication objective.
Okay, look. So I've seen some and I'm not seeing some.
Sir Johnson just did hers.
There we go. And hold on. Okay, I didn't put that there yet. Okay. Alrighty. All right. So now, all right, guys. Who else is here? Maurice, you said you submitted yours?
Yes, sir. Like literally doing class after you spoke.
I see it. But you submit it in the visual technique though, but okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
That's Ryan James. Bored.
Yeah, sorry. Morris. Hutchinson, I don't see yours yet.
I don't know what's going on, sir. After you told me to resubmit it, I did. Went on the website, went down to assignment 1 and submitted it.
And you submitted. All right. Are you sure it's in the right section? You never put it in a different section? Where's Merrick? Merrick not here. Done?
Sir, I submitted my floor plan as well.
Okay, right. All right, your actual floor plan, okay. Right, I'm seeing that. So it's just Hutchinson, for some reason I'm not seeing your thing pop up.
Sir, are you seeing any of mine? Wellington, sir.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I see Wellington. Oh, W. Hold on, your name wasn't up here.
So I remember I had to submit to the email because the day we were supposed to
Oh.
submit, the buttons weren't working for me.
Okie doke. Okie doke. All right. All righty. All right. I know that time is against us. Let's make sure everybody is.
Sir, can you check
Look
on
back.
Scott?
Yeah, let me check back. Hutchinson. Why am I not seeing your thing, Hutchinson? It's just not popping up in here at all. Check the other section then. Nope.
I can share my screen right now and resubmit it if you want.
Are you putting Hutchinson as the name when you submit it, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna give it a little more time. Scott.
Yes, sir. There's a question mark on the circulation.
Why is that? Oh, the scale. It was a gray area. I mean, hey, if you can achieve it, you know what? So let me just change that. That's your thing.
Right,
I was
sir.
concerned about the scale because your circulation diagram was based on a large scale, but you can implement it visually.
Okay. Sir, it would be okay to use a different color like yellow instead of the red.
Thank you for bringing up that question. So guys, a mimic is a mimic. So for example, let's say you have this here, right? Obviously, you can't color your floor plan in this color here because what you're mimicking here is just the technique, which is this. Now, in terms of color, it has to mimic what you have here. So that, because what happening now is that is a consideration with combining it with your drawing. Just like how your drawing that you're mimicking need to mimic this. I mean, the walls need to be black. You know, look on the way how the line work is represented. The shadows, you know, these shadows will be fun. You need to mimic that as well. So even things like the title, and annotations you would mimic. So the question for this is that at least, you know, you need to look within this to try and mimic what this is saying using the same color scheme. You just have to rethink it for your size, your scale.
Okay, sir.
All right, Hutchinson, look like I'm gonna have to collect your work by another method. Where is Tajay? Here, not here. Maya, is it you still have your hand up or is?
No, sir, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh, okay. I was wondering where the other image went. Hold on, Giovanni, not here? Okay. All right, so guys, I want you to remember
Sir?
before you, yeah, question?
Yeah, you never addressed the stuff for me. I told you that I want to change the floor plan and I inserted.
All right, Jordan.
Or you take it.
This one.
Yeah, I wanted to change that. Initially, I wanted to use the new one. I just put this because I thought this is what I was looking for, but I want to try the other one though.
Okay, no problem. Did you submit it?
Yeah, I submitted already.
Yeah, I'm getting everything instantly, but I'm just not getting. Oh, you can try another computer. I don't know.
I only have the one computer, sir.
I only have the
Sir,
one.
sir, I just upload my circulation as well, sir.
Archibald, okay.
Yes, sir.
Sir, can I share my screen and you tell me if the section, if the communicative section can be used or not before I upload it?
Okay, here what we do. Not yet, because we're going to talk about the section after our discussion next week, right? Okay. What I want to use the time and do, because I realize that I have gone over time, is I want to just reiterate what we have here, the presentation.
Yes, sir. I want to know what exactly was supposed to happen tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Next week. Yeah, please.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm just gonna stick this up here. There we go. Nice and big and bold. All right. So the idea is that you are going to now follow this process, right? You have your reference image. You're going to create an estimated process. That's what we did. Actually, I'm going to just grab that also from the presentation. I'll just stick the presentation up here. Here's a nice example. I mean, you don't have to follow like the colors or whatever. This is just an example, right? There we go. So this would be representing this here. That's what that is. For each of these, for things that you don't know, you would be needing to find a tutorial. I had picked out an example here. Did I save it? Let me look. I think, here is one. All right. So there we go. So let's say that you found it in the form of a video, which I suspect a lot of you will be doing, but some of you might find it in the form of a maybe PDF or something, right? As a matter of fact, let's use a better illustration of that there so that it look a little nicer. So this process is really referring to that. And you may find a video. In this case, let's say that it's this video. Let me just put this out where it's a little bit open. And let's say you found a video on how to, I don't know, extrude objects in Max, because that's a part of your process. Well, that's your video here that links to that. So you remember when I was showing you the process, I said that you might have information that is linked to each one of these processes. So in this case, this video is telling me how to do that. So when you're showing me a diagram, you can actually show me like this. You can say, boy, I found in this video, that's how I found out to do this. We don't have to watch the video in our discussion. If there is something particular that you want to highlight, you can just like take a snip or something. All right, if you don't want to paste the video. So before I answer your hands, the question of what we're going to show next week, let me bring up the handout so that we can go from that. So here we go. So we want to show the workflow diagram. We want to show the visual technique and the communication objectives. So those two pictures that you sent to me, you're going to have it on your board or whatever you're using. And then you're going to show your version. And this is only for the floor plan, because that's the first one that we are doing. So these are the items that we need to have for next week. And remember, this workflow that you're showing me, is, where is it? Is this one here, the updated process. Because remember, you have to lay out the process first, and then the process might change for some of us. You know, we might say, use Photoshop to do this, and then maybe by Wednesday, you realize that, oh crap, I shouldn't have used Photoshop. So then this is going to end up changing. So, I mean, we can discuss the first one, but you're really showing me the most up-to-date process that you've used, or you're showing us. All right, guys. All right, I see some questions. Bonita.
Yes, sir. I'm so sorry to bother you again, but I'm just wondering, where's the diagram that we're gonna be, the drawing, the model that we're gonna be using to do the mimicking?
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Now, when you're on the website, guys, so this is what the website looks like. You're gonna scroll down. Here's the information here. This is what the model look like. There are different versions of this model. Let me bring it up so you can see it. So there's a 3D model in SketchUp format, FBX, and DWG, and Max.
Can you talk like English now, as in which programs? I know I know some of what you just said, but I get confused. Is it available in Revit?
No, I was just about to say the native application for this model is in 3D Max, right? So meaning it was created in Max. So hence, yes, you can import the building in SketchUp or Revit or whatever, but don't expect to be getting walls and windows and doors and that kind of stuff, because the model was created in a modeling program. You know, but remember our objective, you know, your objective is whatever you select for your, well, for your objective. So there's also the plans. The plans is in the straight CAD files, flat CAD line drawings. So you can do what you will with that. We went through an example. For some of us, we might want to trace it over in their architectural program. For others, we might not need to trace it over. Maybe for some of we just going to carry those lines directly in, I don't know, Sketch, whatever program that we use it. But the files that you have to work with, they're on the website, and these are in the different formats. All right.
Mm-hmm.
What is this here?
Why did you have to create that in 3ds Max when you know very well that we love Revit? Why, sir? Why?
Because remember, you will not, in reality, you know, you will not have necessarily the appropriate file to begin with.
Oh, okay.
You understand? So even if you are doing your studio and you see this awesome section, but this section, if only it was in ArchiCAD, I could do this, but it's not. You know, you have it in Revit. So in this case, you just happen to have it in Max. But guess what? At least you have it. You don't have to like draw the thing from scratch. Did I mention that 5 years ago, you had to be drawing it from scratch? And you know, when I came in, I said, no, I want to learn how to do this already. There's no need for you to learn how to model. I know how to model from 3D modeling. All I need you to do now is just to, you know, figure out how to display this model in the way that you want. So hopefully the work is more, you know, direct, more targeted.
All right. Thank you for that, sir.
So that is where
so we have to download 3D Max?
No, you don't.
Okay.
You need to do your workflow. Do you think your workflow would require Max? I gave an example of what each programs are for. And as a matter of fact, I post is it here still? It's not here. All right, here it is. Right. So So, you know, Photoshop is good for that. AI, Illustrator, Lumion, and so forth. So Max is good for these things, and Revit is good for those things, and what have you. So you might not necessarily need to go to Max. Most people who go to Max is just because they want to move from one format to another. So I don't believe you need to know Max. Do you, let me throw this question out. Do you envision that we might need to meet to discuss your process? Like, are you guys having any doubts that you can do the floor plan?
I feel that when I start, I'm gonna have doubts. I don't have the doubts now, but feel when I start.
Maybe when you start. Let's
So
see.
can we request sessions with you that's other than Monday, just to like get advice or help?
Okay, that's the exact reason why I was asking. So I know that you have Miss Ramrock on Wednesdays, but because I'm running this assignment, I have a partial clash on Wednesdays. So I can make myself available. For, I think it would be for only for about an hour, because I also teach on Wednesdays. So on my timetable here, on Wednesday, it's gonna be Wednesday. Okay, right. Wednesday. Why is it not showing here? It's a different user. But on Wednesday, I'm just checking my time to make sure that it will clash. Right. On Wednesday, it is it's 4 p.m. Right. I have class at 4, so I can meet you at lunch time. That would be 1. Yeah, between 1 and 2. Hopefully we can fit it in that, which is actually in the middle of when you would actually have your AC1 class. I don't know if everyone could come, but it don't necessarily need everyone, you know. Just those of you who think that, who maybe you're trying something and it not working or whatever, we can discuss it.
So what's the date again?
So that's this Wednesday. Can remember that we are having our discussion next week, Monday, this time. Well, much earlier, of course, in the day. Next week, Monday, this time is when we're having the floor plan discussion. So this coming Wednesday at, did you say 1? Right, at 1 p.m. I will be online. The class rep, you can just remind me, because I'm going to be coming hot off the heels of another class.
Yes.
All right, just for those of you who are having doubts in or trouble. All right, but this is the kind of process that I would want us to do. We're going to meet, then the following week we discuss. All right, and we just do that. We're basically doing that 4 times and then it's done. And then in terms of the handing date now, the handing date is at the end of everything. So as I say, it's more, what we're doing is more about the discussion. Make sure that you definitely have something to show. But even if you're not finished, that's fine. That's fine because the actual handing date is further down.
Yes, sir. So I was wondering if I could just share my screen and show you that I actually submitted it, sir.
No, man, I know they actually submitted. So let's just default to something that works. Look like you just have to email it to me. Either is, you know, because I'm looking here and I'm not seeing. I'm just not seeing your name at all.
It's supposed to come out automatically afterwards.
Yeah,
sir?
man. Because see, everybody else come in automatically, but just email it. It's fine. Just email it so I can put it there.
All right, sir.
Okay. Oh, Jordan, is that a question? No? Or you just didn't lower your hand? All right. So I think that is it. So I'll see you guys. I'll see some of you on Wednesday, but I'll see everyone's presentations for their floor plan next week, Monday. And we're doing that first thing. All right. So as we come in class, we do the discussion. It should take about an hour thereabout. And then we talk about the sections. And I'll carry a sample, a working file sample to go through again to kind of show. All right. Remember this process. It might, when it says find matching tutorials. So remember, find a tutorial that is based on what you're trying to, where is that list? I don't want you to forget this list. Remember this list here? I'm gonna copy it again so you have it that you can look on. Copy. Oops, that's cut. Copy, paste. All right, remember this list here that is speaking about raster editing, vector editing. So when you create your workflow here, you know, you will determine, okay, what is the best way to, for example, extrude in Max. You're going to be looking for tutorials on this. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. You're not expected to know everything about every program, nor do I. So you're going to rely on that research to help you out. All right. So that was a full class. So.
So can I ask one more question, please?
Oh, sure.
It's not related to the project itself, but have you started uploading class recordings to the site as yet? I don't know if it's just me, but class recordings.
Oh, class recordings. No, actually they're here stuck on my computer. I have to compress them. So you're referring to for that last week class?
Yes, sir. And even this one too.
And this one. All right. I will do that for you guys tonight. Because what I do, I run them through Premiere to get them even smaller. So I'm gonna run them through and I will upload them. And you guys know where to find them. So just look there tonight and you should see the classes later on.
All right. Yes, I just wanted to say I emailed all of them to you.
All right, cool. Alrighty, so good luck, guys.
Yes, sir.
All right, later.
All right,
Be
sir.
safe.
Bye.
Okay.